Welcome, everybody. So good to reconnect.
Hello.
Welcome to our July online summit. Hello, Jerry.
Hi.
My name is Ruth. I am the chairperson for Herstory Africa, and I am coming to you from Harare, Zimbabwe. It's 11 p.m. on my time. Ladies, introduce yourselves and tell us where you are coming from. Welcome, Charlotte.
Hi, I'm from Texas, so I'm from the United States. And my passion in life is to empower adult children to learn how to care for their parents. Because the fact is that there are baby boomers who are becoming senior citizens, and there's about 40 million every day that become senior citizens. And my passion is, that children need to reconnect with their parents. They need to take care of their parents. Without them, they wouldn't be here. So that's kind of my passion in life. I
So
I have written
Charlotte,
a book. Yes.
let's introduce Jerry, and then we're going to give you the stage because you are our first speaker. Ruth will read your
Yes.
bio, and then we'll
Okay.
launch into today's event. Jerry, it's good to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing really well. I am Jerry O'Lyon, and I am in Utah, in the United States. Um, I'm an author of a couple of books now, and I'm working on a couple more. I am too very passionate about elderly care, as that's what my first book is about. But I'm also more into humanitarian work, and right now I'm working with a large group of women here in Utah who are making quilts for the people in Ukraine. So I've been sewing for the last 3 days. I made 4 quilts this week. So
Wow.
Wow.
Super.
yeah, it's
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Jerry. It's good to see you again.
thank you.
Certainly
So, Ruth, you want
is.
to formally introduce Charlotte? We will go backstage, and Charlotte, we will hear your amazing story to start us off.
Okay.
Sure. So Charlotte Canyon is an actress, an award-winning author, and radio host, and has shared her stories to thousands of listeners. Her passion is caregiving. Senior healthcare is one of the fastest growing industry in the world, and she wants to share her knowledge with everyone she can. Knowledge is power. Charlotte's first book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying: How to Parent Your Parents, won Best Self Help Book and International Top Author Award. She has won many awards in her career, including a Presidential Award for serving her community. Charlotte Canyon shares anecdotes and practical advice to help other parenting parents build and reinforce happy memories by finding humor during an otherwise arduous and often overwhelming end of life journey. Drawing from her personal experience in caring for loved ones with dementia, Alzheimer, and Parkinson's, Kenyon will provide insights to help prepare anyone now faced with the challenges of caring for a loved one or aging parent. She has 4 golden rules to live by: love, respect, patience, and forgiveness. Charlotte, welcome and thank you for joining us on today's event.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And I'm sorry, I just get so excited when I talk about, sharing my story with so many people because I thought I was on the journey by myself. And let me just give you a little background. A little over 20 years ago, I had a father-in-law that lived with us and he developed dementia. At the same time, my mother got diagnosed with Alzheimer's and my dad got diagnosed with Parkinson's. And they lived a little over an hour from me. I was able to give them care via my aunt, who is my mother's baby sister. So she became, the eyes and ears on my parents for about 7 years. This journey was 16 years. And like I said, I thought I was on it by myself. At first, there wasn't a whole lot of knowledge out there I went to Barnes and Nobles and I looked and looked for books. And then I went to the information booth and I said, "What do you have on parenting your parents?" And the girl looked at me like a deer in headlights. He had no idea what I was talking about. So then I said, "Dementia, Alzheimer's." She said, "Oh, yes, we've got 7 books over here. And they were written by doctors." Well, I sat down and kind of, skimmed through several of them. And it was like reading a foreign language. Now, I didn't realize at that moment, but that's when God planted that seed and He said, "You're going to write this book and it's going to change lives." Now, like I said, that was a seed He was planting that I'm write my story. But let me, give you a fast forward. My father-in-law lived with us for over 8 years, and I saw it firsthand how dementia can take away your dignity, can take away your pride. And the first person to know that, they're having an issue is the person that's going through it. Say I'm my mother, you know, I'm the first one to know that things are not like they used to be. I'm not thinking congruently. I'm not joining, my thoughts, but they fake it. They don't want to admit, none of us want to admit, that something's happening to us. So, they fake it. If everyone's laughing in the room, they will laugh. They do their best to read lips sometimes to, figure out what's going on. Now, my dad, he developed Parkinson. And those of you that aren't aware of Parkinson, usually they keep their cognizance. They actually have their thought patterns pretty intact till almost the end. And I don't know that, why all the different types. And if you've ever asked yourself, why do people, some call dementia, some call it Alzheimer's, some call it Parkinson, frontal lobe, there's all kinds of terms. Well, basically, all senior diseases fall under dementia when they deal with the mind and with the brain. And so dementia is the big umbrella. So if they can't put a label on it, they will call it dementia. And you can dig a little deeper and get them to do more tests. And now they've got a few more tests that then can say your mom's got Alzheimer's or your dad's got Parkinson's, rather than just give you clues. Well, it's a process, because I have noticed over the past 23 years, the industry has changed dramatically. Oh my gosh, there is so much, a wealth of knowledge out there, a wealth of it. And if you're beginning the path, or you're in the middle of the path, or even if you're at the end, read everything that you can find, because the knowledge is getting better and better. Do we have a cure? No, but what we have done is we have learned that we can prolong someone's life. We can slow down the diseases. I think one thing that's really interesting, and I wished I'd known it when my father was alive, because Parkinson, they begin to shuffle. And you may see a lot of seniors, shuffling. Well, what they've learned is music is it's like the key that triggers everything. And if they work with a Parkinson patient and they teach him when he's going to walk to just sing to himself, "The farmer in the dale, the farmer in the dale, hi ho the dairy-o, the farmer in the dale." And I know that sounds really simplified, but what it does, it gives him a tempo, and his feet will walk in that tempo. They may use other simple songs. You don't want to use a waltz or anything. It has to be something that has an upbeat and has a, stop, stop, step, 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 step. I thought that was amazing. I wish I'd have known that. And so I continue to study. I continue to go to seminars and, learn new things. But let me, back up a little bit. Halfway through my journey, my mom, um, she got catatonic. Now it wasn't from the Alzheimer's. Actually, she her kidneys quit functioning. So luckily enough, we were able to, get her to the doctor. And while I'm talking about that, I had her medical power of attorney. But if it was up to my dad, I'm not sure he would have done anything. And not because he was being mean. He just wanted both of them to die in their home. And I think many baby boomers nowadays, they have a bad conception of what a senior community is like nowadays. They think about the old-timey nursing home. And I promise you, they are not like that. I mean, I've been in thousands and thousands of them, and oh my gosh, they're phenomenal. And the people that work there, let me put kudos out to them right now. Oh my gosh, the nurses and the nurses' aides and anybody that works in these facilities, they're there because they want to be. They're not there because of the paycheck, because just like teachers, they don't get paid what they deserve, but they're there because of their compassion. In fact, it's interesting. I've asked people, and when they, maybe retired from their other job, they said, I want to go into senior health care. I want to work in these senior homes because I dealt with my mom and I know how I can help. I can make a difference. So I'm just throwing kudos out to them. They're a phenomenal group of people who care about their seniors. And mine kind of bridge both. If I wasn't doing what I'm doing, I would probably be working in a senior center myself. But what I'm doing is I'm going around and I'm empowering people with knowledge that they're not alone, that they're not walking this journey alone, that there are tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of us who have walked it before them. But what's happened is God made me the voice of the caregiver. So when I released my book, now that's another funny story I have to share real quick. My mother passed away in 2017. And within a couple of weeks, God said, now write your book. I literally looked up to heaven and I said, God, if that was you, you probably saw my grades in English. I was good and average, but didn't excel. He says, oh my gosh, girl, you tell a great story. We got editors. They'll take care of all of that other stuff. Okay, that was good enough. And I'm going, okay, God, now how do I start? Oh my gosh. Within another couple of weeks, I got an email in writing inviting me to a writer's seminar. Okay, God, you do not send emails. But I answered it. And next thing I knew, I was going to a 3-day writer's seminar, and I had written the first 3 chapters of my book. Within 11 months, my book was written and in my hands. And you can see it back there. It's on this side. No, this side. It's backwards when you're on the screen. Anyway, that's my cover of my book, but I'll show it to you here. The interesting thing, try to get that light off of it. The interesting thing is, see these hands? That's my mama's hands. That was me holding my mama's hands. And that was another God thing. I had a girlfriend. We all know photographers. I had a girlfriend that said, you know what? Let's go take pictures of you and your mom together. And she took some fabulous pictures, and many of them are in my book. But she also took those hand pictures, which I treasure with all my heart. But I never dreamed that they would be the cover of the book until my publisher came back and he said, we're going to put these hands on your cover. Well, they weren't my mother's hands. It was just a generic picture. And I said, oh no, I have the perfect picture. That was all I needed. And I pulled out that picture and he said, oh my gosh, I love it. And my book is called You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying. Oh my gosh. Let me tell you how powerful that is. Because early on, she mentioned to you, I have 4 golden words that I try to live by. And they are love, respect, patience, and forgiveness. And that's actually what guided me through the journey of writing my book. And when I told my, my publisher about that. He said, "Oh my gosh, I love it." He loved my title. He didn't even tweak it any, because you have to laugh through all those journeys. You have to laugh when you love someone. That creates those endorphins. You have to respect. Well, to respect one another is to love one another. So respect and love kind of go hand in hand. And you have to respect not just your parents, but if you respect everyone for who, what, and where they are, oh my gosh, we could change the whole world. And then there's patience. That was my third word. Yeah, patience is big, especially when you're walking a journey with your parents. And what happens is it's role reversal. You've heard those terms, but you never let your parents know that you know it's role reversal. I'll give you an interesting thing. You have to divert them sometimes when their minds are going a wrong direction and you knew it was going to be kind of bad or negative. One time we were visiting my mother and she was sitting on the side of her bed and she kind of patted the side of her bed, and I went over and she said, "No." And she wanted my husband. She motioned for him to come sit down by her. Now I didn't know where this was going, and I just kind of was going with the flow. She wanted to talk to Craig, who is my husband. So he sat down next to her and she scooched over close to him. And that was kind of strange, but we kind of, what flowed with it while it was going. And next thing I said, "Mom," I said, "look what we brought you." And she said, "Shh, I'm talking to your daddy." Oh my gosh. We just realized that she thought my husband was my dad. She thought it was her husband. So the next thing that came out of her mouth is she looked over at my husband and she said, "Did you enjoy yourself last night?" Oh my gosh, I knew at that moment I had to change things because first of all, I didn't want to hear the story. Second of all, it was going down a path I didn't even care to hear about. So I always had Hershey Kisses in my purse. And I said, "Mom, you want some chocolate?" I got Hershey Kisses. One thing you learn about Alzheimer and dementia is you can divert them. It's kind of like a child. Their memories are short. And especially with Alzheimer's, they have that short-term memory loss. So if I could divert her enough to eat chocolate, I got her off of the subject. And of course, my husband got up immediately and left the room. He didn't want to know where that topic was going either. But what that you see the laughter and the humor in it? Yeah, it was a little bit, but you got to use your tools. Think of, what would mom do? What would my mom done if, that was with her mom? And that's what I did. I, pulled chocolate out of my hat. And then and I had to have patience at that time. Now, I'm going to tell you real quick, I had to have patience with myself, but I was also trying to be patient with my mom. So you need to be patient with them and patient with yourself. And then the last of the four words is forgiveness. Oh my gosh. Forgiveness is big. I don't know if you've ever, can remember back when you were a child and someone made you mad and, it took you forever to forgive them. Well, as we get older, I think we hold on things longer. You need to forgive everything in the past. And you also need to forgive things that might happen in the future or things that are happening right now. But you also have to forgive yourself, because I can promise you there will be days you're going, "Oh, why me?" And there's days that you'll want to scream, but you can't. Because anytime you, like say, your mom or dad or whatever is trying to tell you this is happening, then you go, "No, it's not really," in your head. You can say it to yourself in your head, but don't say it for real. In other words, divert them. Don't get into a confrontation, because that'll only make everything worse. And while I'm talking about forgiveness, I want you to forgive yourself for things that you'll think. You know, forgive yourself and forgive them, because for them it's their disease. I remember one day, and this is a very hard thing for me to share, but my mom we went to visit. Actually, I was by myself, and she yelled and screamed, told me to get out of there. She hated me, not to ever come back. Now, I don't know if I was her daughter then, or, who she thought I was, but you can't imagine the words so hurtful coming out of your mom. But back in my head, I kept thinking, that's a disease. That's a disease. Don't cry in front of her. Don't let her know she hurt you, because that'll only hurt her indirectly. So I didn't. I didn't stay very long, because I knew that, I was going to cry eventually. So I said, well, Mom, I've got some things to do. I said, welcome. Don't come back. She just yelled and screamed at me. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. So I just left. Of course, I went home and cried all day. My husband held me. And I said a prayer. And I said, God, if this is the new norm, I'll live with it. But please, God, it's hard. It's really hard. And I think he heard me, because that was only happened one time. Only one time. And I don't know if she was in pain. I really don't know what triggered it. But I forgave my mom. That's what I'm getting at. You have to forgive them before it happens. Now, that's a little bit of my journey, but my passion is to help kids. And when I say kids, I mean adult children, the kids of the seniors, to help them understand that, this is part of life. And even though they didn't have to do it with their parents, because people used to die a lot earlier. I'm going to give you a quick stat. Did you know that 10-year-olds today are going to live to be 110? 10-year-old kids today live. So, in other words, medicine's getting better. They're probably going to live with bionic parts, but senior care is going to be around for a long time. So if we can train the kids, or at least help them learn that we need to give back to our parents what they gave to us when we were children. They held our hand. Now it's our time to hold theirs. If y'all have any questions, I'd love to, see what I can answer.
Not only was I muted, but I was also off camera. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you so much for that insightful presentation. I've got so many questions. Unfortunately, I have lost both parents before they got to that age. But I know I've got aunts, I've got uncles that are in their advanced ages, and I know some family members are dealing with it, whereas as they're taking care of them, they're dealing with all those things. So I've got a number of questions that I just want to ask. But I also like to commend you on the way you do the presentation and the way you give the tips. You have to use distraction, and it just takes you back to when you were raising your children. When the way we have to deal with them, but without letting them know that we're thinking that way. So that's a very tactful. I think in my culture, it is exactly what we do, because there's a lot of respect in my culture for the elderly and for parents and the aged. So I like that you have to divert them, you have to uh, deal with them, but without letting them know that this is what it's in your head, but you can't voice it. I like that. And then I wanted to find out in your experience, when in that moment when your mom said that, so how did the healing come? from that pain. You spend the whole day crying. Thank God for your husband. He was there to hold you. How did you heal? And how long after that did you go and see her?
Well, it was, I couldn't go back that day at all. I couldn't compose myself. I'll be honest with you. I'd never heard my mother, say anything so mean and so hurtful. In my mind, I just kept repeating over and over, it's the disease, it's the disease, it's the disease. And I think it was a day or two that I, went back, and oh my gosh, she was so excited to see me, and big smile on her face. And, we hugged and kissed, and, everything was back to normal, but I do know that Alzheimer's is a roller coaster. So I kind of anticipated, okay, I may have this day again, but I think I'll be able to handle it if it comes back.
Wow.
It didn't. And I thank God for that. Because no one, we love, and we as mothers, our fathers, we love our children, and we would never want to hurt them intentionally. And I know my mom, in her right mind, she would have never said those things. And then as I studied, I realized she could have had a UTI. She could have, something could have been, she could have been really in pain, and that was her only way of expressing it.
Awesome. Jerry, do you have any questions? So we can. I know your book is based on this.
Yes,
Grandma's Button.
I just finished reading Charlotte's book, and it was a fabulous book. One of the things I loved about, I love your presentation. It was fabulous. But one of the things I really loved about the book is that you had other people share their experiences. Your husband with his dad, and the doctor that was there, and it kind of gave a nice alternative thought, or alternative. And the book, her book is fabulous. Everyone should have it. Every family should have a copy of it for everybody in the family to share, because when you're taking care of your parents, I took care of my late husband's grandmother. One of the things this was an advantage for me is that she lived with me, and I had my husband and my 4 children to help me. So I wasn't doing it alone. Most people who are taking care of someone with Alzheimer's is doing it alone. And that's part of the reason that book needs to be in every family, because if all the siblings read the book, you see what I'm saying? If all the siblings read the book, they'll understand why it's more than one person. If you're an only child, then you don't have a choice. My good friend, her mom came to live with them. I had encouraged her to bring her home, but what I didn't realize at the time, I did realize at the time that her and her mom had a volatile relationship her entire life. Mom constantly did what your mom did, her mom did her whole life. And when she moved in, it exasperated it. I mean, she got way worse. And I finally came to the conclusion, I tried to help her with it, and we came to the conclusion that the home was best for her. And they found a really good one. And she's there, and she says she's not happy, but her actions show that she's actually doing pretty good. It's very common with someone with Alzheimer's to tell you, no, nothing's good. But then you see them doing things that are fun for them, or having a great experience. They don't remember, they don't retain those. It's their short-term memory. My current husband has Alzheimer's, and he was diagnosed almost 10 years ago now. And his Alzheimer's was the result of over medication. He had cancer surgery, and it over medicated him, and caused instant dementia. Coming out of the 3rd surgery, he had instant dementia. And so I recognized it right away. We got him to see a neurologist, and there's so many things that can be done now. Back when I took care of grandma, it was 30 years ago almost now, or when I first got her. They didn't have anything. They didn't have medication. They didn't have anything. And so I love that you brought that out, how much there is, because there's a lot. Alzheimer's Association is amazing. They have all kinds of studies. Try to get Joseph into one of those. But his Alzheimer's, one of the points you made that I can prove to listening is that how you treat them can prolong getting worse. And that has happened with him. Not correcting him all the time, not telling him he's wrong. When I do have a conversation with him, we try and do it in private. We do it gently. We do it, because he'll ask me, "Did I mess up here?" I'm like, "No, wasn't your best day, but this is what we can do." And so he still hasn't really. He's forgotten a lot, but he hasn't progressed in the disease, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I would like to add something here because you touched on body language. And I do another talk called Communication Etiquette, and I won't go into all of that. But what I learned at that was 7% of what is, how we communicate is verbal. 38% is your tone and influx of your voice. But 55% of communication is body language. So like you said, you can watch their body language and they may say, "I don't feel good," but they're laughing. And, you can watch their body language and know that they are happier. There were days when, I would go, "Oh, my mom, she's doing great." And then, it's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But you watch that body language and that, you can tell when they're happy. She was a social person.
Yeah.
And just FYI, my father-in-law lived with us. And I think this was a gift that God was giving me, or he was telling me that I needed to teach caring for the caregiver, because, that's a totally kind of, it's another subject. But when my mom went down, my husband said, "We'll move her in the house." And I didn't think about what I said. Out of my mouth said, "You'll bury me first. I can't do this a second time."
Yeah, I totally get that.
And that's when God, and I realized, oh my gosh, I could love on her all day long, but I didn't have to have the responsibilities of making sure she had the right meds, to make sure her, her diapers were changed, to bathe her. And I did that several times. And it's like, I don't think her dignity would want me. And every family, has to deal with it their way. But like you said, there are families that they don't get along when they were both normal. They're not going to get along through this process.
It's not going to be some magic thing.
Yeah, I've seen, when mom and daughter were real close, but when mom moved in with the house, they hated each other at the ending, and I don't want that. You don't want to regret, what you've said or what you've done.
Yeah. Well, in my case, my husband's grandmother, I adored her already, and she wasn't diagnosed till after she moved in with us, and so when they told us she had 2 months to live, and then she ended up living 12 years. It ended up being a huge blessing for my family, because I have a lot of patience naturally. My nature is I'm a pretty patient person, so I'm probably the only kind of person that can really handle something like this. Because if you don't have patience, then you're offended, and once you're offended, it's so hurtful that it makes it really difficult to do it again. Now with my husband, there have been many times where he's been offensive, because he's a totally different beast than my grandmother. And but I'm also able to remove myself from it, calm myself down, reassure myself, just like you said. I know he has Alzheimer's. I know that this is something he can't necessarily help, And once we do the positive self-talk to ourselves and pray for them and pray for ourselves, for patients, then it becomes a joyful experience. My experience with grandma was very joyful, but didn't mean I didn't have all the same challenges that everybody has. It just was a little easier for me because of my situation with my husband and children. They were phenomenal. Yeah.
Wow. So you spoke about support and getting siblings to be part of it, or the rest of the family to and then, so do you also, Charlotte, do you offer family workshops? I don't know whether I want to call them workshops or talks. Do families invite you to come and speak to them?
Well, I haven't, I have spoke to individual families, but where I speak mostly is at caregiver groups.
Yeah.
Okay.
I go into caregiver groups that are at, usually at a facility, or they could be at a senior center. But I do, and I've been doing that now for, well, since 2018. So I guess that's 5 years that I've been speaking. COVID shut things down. Although I via Zoom, I was
Mm.
still, out there speaking and actually reaching a bigger audience. Because when I'd go speak, it'd be 30 or 40 in the room, or it could be 10. It
Mm.
didn't matter whether there was 3 people there or 300 people. The story's the same, and they need the questions answered. And that is actually just what God has, put me out there doing. And I hope
Mm.
to, with with uh, with this platform, I hope to reach a whole lot, a whole lot more people, because as we know, this is a growing industry. It is the
Yes.
fastest growing industry right now, and it's not going to get any easier unless you get all the tools.
True, true. And can we talk about the four words? I love those: love, respect, patience, and forgiveness. They could actually be the fruit of the spirit, isn't it? So let's talk about those, and yeah, let's talk about those. Hi, Terry, welcome.
Hi, my
Hi,
sisters.
Terry.
Oh, I can't get this time change, this time difference thing going.
You need a world clock.
Uh, well, Ruth, you want me to tell you, kind of how those came to me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, of course, love is universal. And we know, the first love, I guess, comes from our mother because she carries us for 9 months. And I knew that I had to. So my book is broken up into those 4 words, which are love, respect, patience, and forgiveness. And the interesting thing, and I'm going to share this with you, my father, my dad, he was a Marine.
Mhm.
But the reason he was a Marine was when he was 2 years old, his mother died. When he was 12 years old, his dad died. And his older sister lied about his age, and he went into the war at the age of 15. So he was a hard man. I'm not sure, because he didn't have a mother to really teach him the capacity of love. I think he loved my mother as much as he could, but it wasn't. If I think about my husband and I's love, it is total, good, bad, and ugly. Uh, and you know, I think, some of the generations, and depending on your lifestyle and all, love, love may not come to you as easy. You may put up barriers. So, that's why I discuss, some of the stories of how you gotta love to be able to get through it. And then respect, where respect is like dignity. You got to respect them for who, what, and where they are at that moment. And if they've got dementia, respect them for who, what, and where they are, and things that they say, as I, said earlier. And you have to respect yourself. And when I say that, that's the caring for the caregiver. So when you mentioned earlier about getting siblings in, well, I have one sibling. I take that back. My husband's an only child.
Mhm.
And I have one sibling, and he lives 3,000 miles away. And I love him, but he basically said, "Good luck, sissy," because I'm the one that's here. So all of us know that 9 out of 10 caregivers are female.
Yes.
Numbers probably higher, but that's a good general number. And it came to that. I had to be the caregiver. I had to, you'll laugh when I tell you this. When my mom and dad, I actually had, if they had to pick them up for something, from the community they lived in, I had them go to different hospitals because to keep the bills separate, to kind of, that helped me a little bit because we have two hospitals, and it just worked out easy for me. And that's what I'm telling you, think about the resources. And there are so many, as Jerry said earlier, there is so much help out there now that I didn't have 23 years ago. But there are people that will guide you through all of it. There are even people that will go in and they will help you clean out the house, and take with them what they need to take, and get it all sold and box it up for you. It's amazing how many people have stepped up in the industry. Every facet of it seems to be covered now. I can't think of an area that still needs people to step up. um, what I'm proud about is, there's big communities out there. We've seen, in fact, I was in one yesterday, and they have over 3,000 people. Now they're retired, they're assisted living and memory care, but that's big. To me, that could be overwhelming for a certain person that, you couldn't bring home. Oh, your mother, or your father, or even your spouse, if they need a, facility. They're building more and more homes that only have anywhere from 10 to 20 people in them. And that almost becomes a family. It becomes an extension of their real family, becomes their new family. So that's one of the latest things that I've noticed. And actually, I'm a spokesperson for one of them. And their facilities, none of them are over, 20 beds, and it's almost one person to every 3 patients. So, it, the care that when if you're still working as an adult child, you don't worry about your parents.
True.
Yeah.
And then patience.
And patience, oh my gosh, well, patience, we could use patience when we were mothers raising our kids. It's the same thing. They do some of the same silly stuff. Real quick, I'll share with you, my mom, when I started, she started into Alzheimer's and was 4 or 5 years into it. And then I had to kind of clean up some things. She would clip newspaper clippings and stuff them in a toilet paper roll and hide them under her Kleenex. Now they become somewhat hoarders. That you never know what they're going to do, but it would be something like a kid would think about. I'm going to hide my treasures. I think that's what she was thinking. And then I know you're going to ask me about the last word, forgiveness. Well, forgiveness is something that God asks us for, but we've got to forgive the past. And I do know we all have a past, and you know, we all have family members that we haven't spoke to, or friends we haven't spoke to, or whatever it is. Forgive, forgive, because forgiveness is freedom. Unforgiveness is an anchor, and it will go with you forever if you don't forgive. That's kind of where mine came from with all of those words.
Thank you,
Charlotte, you
Charlotte.
always amaze me with your lightheartedness.
Mm,
You carry and have carried the burden of caring for your parents with a very light heart. How do you do that? Because there's a lot of people who struggle with the responsibility, but there's something in you that I think you need to share the secret sauce.
golly, I don't know what I could try other than, those 4 words. I try to look at things objectively. I know, I guess one of my little secrets would be I step out of my box. I'm the daughter. She's the mother. That's, my whole life, she was always going to be there for me to call and ask a question to. No, it didn't happen that way. So I stepped back a step or two and I said, okay, let me look at this objectively. Why is this happening? What can I do to help? What can I change? So I guess what God, of course, he helps me through it all, a lot of prayer. And my mom, I have to share this with you. I think Gertrude's probably heard me, but there was one time my mom wanted to pray. And we said, oh my gosh, yes, go ahead. And it was before a meal, but she went into the Our Father and she said, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done for liberty and justice for all. Now we all laughed, but she said her prayer and oh, she was so devout about it. So, prayer has been with my life, my whole life. So prayer is a big thing. But I do believe that those, you can step out of your comfort zone and get help. Ask other people what they think. Now you don't have to take their advice, but it doesn't hurt, to have other input.
Fantastic. Always a pleasure to connect with you, Charlotte, and listen to your wisdom. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence this morning. We're really looking forward to meeting you in person, hopefully when you come to Australia in December to film the Herstory reality TV show. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Terry,
And
good
God
to
bless
see
you
you
all.
there. How are you? You're muted, Terry. She's having problems with her connection. Is that me seeing her freezing or
I'm
she's
not.
frozen, right?
No,
No, she's
No,
not.
she's not
no,
frozen.
no. I'm not frozen.
Okay, on my side, I
Yeah.
can't see her.
I
I
can
can't
hear
hear
her.
her.
Gertrude,
Okay.
I
Okay.
can hear Terry.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not
good.
frozen on my end. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
We
Charlotte, you're
need,
welcome to stay with us if you like.
yes, and we
We're going
need
to
your
Oh,
website.
I
We
want to
need
share
Charlotte's
something with
Charlotte's.
website.
Charlotte.
Yes,
Charlotte,
Terry.
while I have you on, my mom turned 93 in June.
God bless. My
She's,
mother passed at 93.
she's still insisting on living alone. And this week I had my first scare,
Uh-oh.
but the Lord saw to it that I was on the phone with her. Okay. I'm on the phone with her. All of a sudden I hear a beep beep and she was complaining about her phone. Okay. And so I said, okay, that doesn't sound like anything in your phone. Where are you? Oh, I'm in the living room. I said, walk toward the kitchen, please. Do not hang up the phone. Her breakfast was still on the stove. And and
Oh.
and I have the smoke detectors being real sensitive. Okay. And so she says, oh, okay. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to get you off the phone. Just hold the phone. I'll use my cell phone. So I called my brother who was working out quite a distance away. So I called the neighbors and the guy says, I'm not there, but I'll be there in 5 minutes. And he got there and he went in, he called me back. He says, you were right. She was cooking her breakfast and she doesn't realize that I had called her earlier and knew that she was on the phone and got sidetracked. Okay. So I
Yeah.
didn't fuss or anything. I just said it happened. So I got dressed, went over. I said, I brought you your breakfast. She says, I ate my breakfast. There was nothing wrong with that. And I was like, okay, no worries.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So that was my first scare. And the first thing I want to do is disconnect the gas, on the
Yes.
stove. But I'm
Yes.
not going to do it. She and I had a little conversation, and she says, I was fine. I was fine. But she didn't know that that was the smoke detector.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's scary. That's why in these facilities, they, they don't have kitchens, or if they have anything, it's a
it's
microwave.
a microwave. I used to work at an assisted living facility when I
Yeah.
retired the third time.
Yeah.
So I know how that works, but she refuses to leave her house. So I'm
Uh,
not going to throw her into depression about
no.
having to move. So my brother and I we're dealing with it. We're dealing with it. We've got
Well, I'll,
everybody
I'll,
on alert.
I'll say some prayers that she didn't,
Yes.
burn the house down. That's scary.
Yeah, that was real scary. But it just so happened I worship an awesome God, and
Yeah.
I was on the phone at that time when it went off. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yes.
So thank you. I think about you often.
Thank you, Terry.
And Charlotte, may we have your website's link? Maybe just put it in the chat and I'll share it with our audiences,
I can
and
do
the
that.
book link where they can get your book. Thank you so much. As we are moving along, Terry, I'm going to ask you to read Bruce Atkinson's bio. You
Okay.
have the access. You've access to the link.
I have it
To
right
the
here.
slide. Yes. Please
Okay.
read Bruce, who's going to be
Okay.
our next speaker. Thank you.
Bru- Bruce Atkinson is a member of Eastern Metropolitan Region. Bruce was first elected to the Victorian Parliament in 1992 as the member for the former Kunung, I guess that's how you pronounce it, province. He was elected as a member of Eastern Metropolitan Region in 2006 and was re-elected in 2010 and 2014. All these. He attended Wadding Primary and Mitcham High School, and then started a career in journalism and later established a business involved in publishing, marketing, and consultancy services, predominantly servicing the retail industry. Bruce is a member of his local Rotary Club and has keen interest in sports, including cricket, football, and soccer. He is a member of the Australian Institute of Company Directors, Royal Society of Victoria, Dakin Literature Society, Australian Poetry, National Trust, Royal Overseas League, and Box Hill RSL, as well as a director of the Eastern Football League. In the Parliament, Bruce was the Parliamentary Secretary for Planning and Local Government from 1996 to 1998 and was Shadow Minister for Small and Medium Enterprise, Work Cover and Sport and Recreation between 2002 and 2006, and Deputy President of the Legislative Council between 2006 and 2010. He was elected President of the Legislative Council in 2010 and retained that position following 2014 state election. Bruce has held public office in the eastern suburbs for 40 years, with 17 in local government and more than 23 in state parliament. It is refreshing to see that a government official is interested in community activities. I introduce to you Bruce Atkinson. Who's controlling?
I'm trying to play the video.
Okay.
And uh, let's see. Oh my goodness. Ladies, you have to talk about something else while I try to deal with this technical glitch. Log in.
There you go.
Atkinson, and I'm a member of the Victorian Parliament. I'm 69 years of age, and I'm based in, my electorate office is in Ringwood, but I'm clearly based in Melbourne in Victoria. And I've been in Parliament now for 30 years, and prior to that had 17 years in local government here in Nunawading, which is now part of the city of Whitehorse. So 47 years in public service, and I have enjoyed every moment of it, principally because of the inspiration that I've drawn from so many wonderful people along the way.
Now, I have noticed that the state of Victoria has a very big drive to be inclusive, to expand the reach in all the ethnic minority groups across the state. Now, why is diversity and inclusion so important, and why did you support this initiative?
Victoria is one of the real exemplars of multiculturalism. We have had a bipartisan commitment from the political parties here in Victoria to multiculturalism over many years. It's been recognised that bringing people together in the community and not simply tolerating diversity as happens in some places, we celebrate diversity. We recognise that there is so much that people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, the different faith communities, different geographies around the world have to bring to the table in terms of sharing culture, sharing ideas, sharing perspectives. And what is really important to us is to make sure that everybody is included at that table, that in fact we don't simply concentrate on some of the larger populations, but also focus on some of the smaller communities and some of the newer communities in particular. Australia and Victoria is the story of this country is obviously very much about migration over just a little over 200 years, albeit that the Indigenous Australians, the First Nations people, have a culture that goes back over 60,000 years and is one that we have come to learn more about, particularly, I think, through the lens of some of the more recent arriving communities to Victoria. So we now celebrate our Aboriginal culture as much as sharing the cultures of so many new communities that have come. Clearly, there was a lot of people who came in post-Second World War migration, and indeed the story of migration to Australia very often has been one of refugees and people who have left their home country because of conflict or because of economic circumstances. Those people have brought enormous skills as much as culture and knowledge to Victoria and have played a very important role in the advancement of this state and this country. And as I said, we really celebrate all of those contributions to what has become a terrific tapestry of multiculturalism here in Victoria. The African communities are some among the more recent arrivals to Australia. Although obviously there are individuals and some communities that go back many, many decades and indeed into 2 centuries ago when the gold rush really found considerable growth in Victoria. But in significant numbers, the African communities have been more recent arrivals into Victoria, and they are a vibrant community that has brought a lot of terrific cultural pollination, but also the vibrancy of their cultures in terms of food and fashion and again, just ideas. There are communities that are very committed to education, as so many of the migrant communities have been, and they have been very involved in establishing businesses in Victoria, and very successful businesses. And I can see terrific opportunities going forward created by these communities.
So, what I have observed, you might not know, I am new to Australia. I've been living in New Zealand for the last 21 years. And so I have immersed myself in finding the African community, volunteering with different organizations. Some of the challenges that are faced by most of the African immigrants is the language barrier. And again, some skills are not directly transferable. Some people were nurses, they were doctors, and when they relocated, they can't get registration, for example, to work in the medical profession. What is government doing to help immigrants who have transferable skills find employment, be viable citizens in this community?
It's interesting that at this time, Victoria in particular has a real issue in terms of skills. We have a very low unemployment rate at this time, nationally and in this state, and we are really in need of skilled workers in so many areas. Some of the areas that have been really important has certainly been health, as well as areas like hospitality and agriculture, manufacturing, and so forth. So there's certainly the opportunities there, and I guess the real challenge for government is to match the gaps with the skills that are already available here in Australia. In many cases, people who are perhaps doing work that was initially the first job, the entry point into our economy and the jobs market, but in fact who already have skills that might well see them transfer into areas that are more aligned with their career experience and their education. The situation with medicine is sometimes quite difficult because international qualifications are sometimes difficult to translate into the Australian requirements. There are many doctors who come from all parts of the world, including Pakistan, India, Iran, and so forth, who have certainly qualified in their home countries, have come to Australia and have been able to have their qualifications recognised after going through a process to establish the qualifications that they have, and more important, any upskilling that is necessary to meet Australian requirements. There are obviously significant opportunities for more doctors coming from the African continent who also have studied in universities, and sometimes in international universities, not just in Africa, but they may well have studied in Canada, the United States, or the UK. So that process of trying to fill the gaps with people who have skills and who have that educational background is really one of the challenges for government. And principally, it's a challenge for the federal government because we do try to have a mutual recognition in most of our industries for professional qualifications, so that if they're recognised in a state like Victoria, they'll be recognised in New South Wales and so forth. I found that particularly people from the African continent have been significantly involved in the aged care sector, and they have made a particular contribution in that area, bringing with them very often skills and educational training. And I don't think that many of those people involved in that industry have really taken up the opportunity perhaps to look at expanding their qualifications further and to move into other areas of nursing. One of the problems with aged care is it's relatively low paid. There's considerable debate on pay issues, wage rates for the aged care sector. And so it's obviously represented a significant entry level opportunity for people from Africa in particular. And we have found that they've been outstanding in terms of the compassion that they bring and the work ethic that they have in that sector. But I do think that there is opportunities for many of those workers to also look to upskill and move into nursing in particular.
That is fantastic. I observed what New Zealand has done. They created what's called the comparable healthcare pathway, where they will allow people who've worked in the so-called first world countries to come in under supervision. And I think New Zealand solved some of its problems, especially in rural parts of New Zealand, in bringing in doctors and nurses, etc. And I think you're right. The opportunity is there for immigrants to go back to college. Scholarships are available. Lots of university opportunities here. So I think it's on us as a people to grab those opportunities and upskill so that we can fit into all of these positions as well.
If I can just go back on one aspect in terms of the upskilling, I would also mention that we're not talking about redoing a whole course. We're very often talking about just topping up the existing qualifications. So it might be a very short, almost a refresher course that simply gets to Australian standards. And one of the other issues that I think is really important in terms of workforce is that I would hope that the new federal government actually reviews the entire visa system here in Australia, because I don't think it's working for anyone. I don't think that it's working for refugees. I don't think that it's working for seasonal workers. I don't think it's working for international students. I don't think it's working for family reunion or business executives. I'm not sure where it's working as it should, and that is an area that I would like to see the federal government tackle as a matter of urgency, which would then also play into this skills shortages and the opportunities for careers and so forth for people from the African continent.
So let's talk a little bit about racism. I know that there have been issues with the past, the gangs, that have painted a very negative perception and created a stereotype around African people in general, and in particular, the Sudanese community. What is government doing? What is the city councils doing to protect the innocent? Because there are a lot of people who are caught in the crossfire, who are not involved in these gangs. What is government doing to try and help with that?
In terms of racism, racism is a significant issue at times. It tends to flare, and it tends to flare around particular issues in the community. For instance, the Chinese community in Victoria and Australia went through a difficult period because of COVID. There was a certain section of the community who was blaming the Chinese people for COVID. Now, clearly, our communities here in Australia had nothing to do with how COVID might have emerged, and they were as susceptible as any other community to the challenges of COVID. We also had issues some time ago with some of the Indian community, and that was a matter of concern. So, particularly from the Indian community experience, I think we did learn a lot, and I think we've been able to tackle some of the issues in the African community better and more constructively. Can I say that I think, from my point of view, the African communities have been outstanding in terms of their contribution to this state and the way in which they have joined with the broader community in terms of participation in the workforce, participation in community activities and social networks and sports clubs and so on and so forth. You know, this has been a community that's been eager to become involved in Australian society, and I think that's fantastic. It's also my experience that with young people in particular, I never cease to be impressed by the quality of young people. Um, the African youth that I have met across the board have been interested in education, have been committed to their education, and are doing some extraordinary things. And I see so many of them coming through in leadership roles in youth communities, but even in broader areas. And I see them also in terms of, you know, the number of functions that I go to, and I see young African people as MCs and as speakers and contributors on panels and so forth, who bring a terrific perspective. And I think I'm very confident about the future of this state and the future of the contribution of the African communities because of what I see in those young people. There have been some isolated incidents of some youth who have been involved in some activities, antisocial behaviour, and extending into criminal activities. I think one of our problems has been historically that we have had people come to Australia, particularly from conflict zones, and Sudan is a particular example, come from conflict zones, and they have been basically brought in by a federal government program, dropped in the suburbs of Melbourne without sufficient support around them. And I find that particularly for some of the African women who have families that they are supporting, often without menfolk, there has been a real stress point and difficulties in terms of meeting the needs of those families and ensuring that their particularly young males, in some cases, have had the sort of role models that are going to ensure that those that have gone off the track a little are actually provided with some guidance and some support. So we really needed to do better in terms of those African youth that had got into strife. We needed to ensure that there were better services around them. We needed to ensure, I think, that even some of the placements of where people were encouraged to settle were better. Because, for instance, from Sudan, we brought people across who had experience in the agricultural industries, in farming, and we dropped them in the middle of concrete jungle suburbs rather than in places where their skill set could be used better and they would feel more constructive and a better part of those communities. What we have done, the government, I think, has certainly worked to create organisations or committees that have involved the leaders of the African communities that where there has been a need to address particular issues. And we have sought the advice of those communities on how we can better address those problems and to address them in a culturally sensitive way, to address them with some understanding of where those young people have come from and the sort of struggles that they might have. There has also been, I think, some attempts for some really terrific programs. I mean, I've got a friend, Selba, in Dandenong, who's done a lot of work in the justice area, yes, but also started the Black Rhinos, which was a basketball competition which exploded from one team to many teams and yes, very successful. And the involvement of young people in sport in that way has actually meant that they have discipline, they understand teamwork, they have skills development, and frankly, they've got no cause to get into trouble because there's a positive in their lives. And the work that Selva's done has been sensational, but it's being done by other organisations as well around Victoria.
Yeah, I've been actually volunteering at Afri-Oz Care with Salva Gondoza, and she is absolutely amazing. Now, I know that one of the things that Salva is advocating for right now is to try and help those young men who are incarcerated at the moment to ensure that they get correct representation, they get opportunities to study, they get help and support when they come out of prison so that they don't become repeat offenders. What is the state doing in helping and facilitating along those lines?
There are programs, and they're broad programs. They're not necessarily, to my understanding, specific to African offenders that might have been incarcerated and becoming out. As I understand, there are a broad range of programs, and certainly within some of the youth detention centres, there are education programs and so forth. But this is an area where, in all honesty, we have to do better. We have to do better in terms of the educational support that we provide to those young people who are incarcerated. And we have to do much better when they are released, because one of the issues is if they are not given some skills, if they're not encouraged in pursuing their education or pursuing some skills development, then in fact, inevitably they go back to the people that they perhaps were associated with before they got into trouble. And very often that's a pretty dead-end course. It's a sort of a circular situation of going back into difficult circumstances. What we need to do is to break those cycles and to give them more positive opportunities. I know that there are some organisations who are prepared to provide employment for offenders who are released, and who are prepared to that they undertake, particularly in some of the manufacturing industry and so forth. We need to do better with those sorts of programs. We need to involve more employers. We need to involve better targeted education facilities. And we also, with some of the troubled youth, we need to identify some of the issues that are behind their challenges. And that can sometimes be undiagnosed mental health issues, particularly where they have come from conflict zones or where their families have been stressed by the circumstances that actually brought them to Australia. You can't simply put all that away in a suitcase and say, well, that's behind us now, we've got a new life. Sometimes those issues are troubling for people for many years. And we know, for instance, in mental health, often those teenagers who have issues with mental health, you can trace it back to when they were 3 and 4 years of age and the circumstances that they were involved in at that time. We have to do a better job in that area as well. And there certainly is a significant Victorian government commitment now to improving our mental health services.
That's fantastic. That's good to know. Now, let's get to know you, Bruce. Bruce, the man, the father, the husband. Who are you? Are you married? How many children do you have? Tell us a little bit about you personally. When I was looking at your bio, I saw that we have a few things in common. I'm also a Rotarian from New Zealand. I noticed you are a Rotarian yourself. You have been actively involved in a lot of sports and sports clubs. Tell us a little bit about you and what your passions are.
Yeah, look, essentially, I grew up locally in Nunawading, which is an eastern suburb of Melbourne, and have spent most of my time within a very short radius of where I grew up. And I was a journalist initially when I'm leaving school. In those days, there weren't university degrees. It was sort of like an apprenticeship to be a journalist. And so I worked for local newspapers and became a graded journalist. I then went on to manage shopping centres and got involved in marketing, set up my own business, and was involved in publishing, in public relations and marketing, and particularly in business consulting to the retail industry, which had become a specialisation. And at the same time, I was certainly on the Ngunnawal Council for 17 years, spent a couple of years as mayor, and entered Parliament in 1992. So I complete 3 decades at the end of this year as a Member of Parliament. I'm married and have 3 children, all grown-up children, and 4 grandchildren. 2 are twins, one of each flavour, and the other 2 are 2 years old, and the twins are 11. The other 2 are 2 years old and 1 year old, and they're obviously a great delight to me. My interests have certainly been in travel, in theatre. I do still write in journalism, business, some business articles, opinion articles, as well as poetry. And I've got a great interest in a lot of sports organisations. Was a long-suffering Melbourne Football Club supporter until last year when they won their first premiership in 57 years. But I've obviously been a strong supporter also of women's sport, and Melbourne Vixens in the netball is a particular favourite team that I support. Melbourne Victory in soccer, and obviously I contribute a lot in terms of support and the necessary assistance that comes from a government level to many local sporting organisations. My own sports history was really in basketball and field hockey.
Fantastic. Wonderful to get to know you a little bit, Bruce. So now let me take you into the future, and let's imagine that time is an illusion. And I'm going to teleport you to the 100-year-old you. And you're now sitting in your rocking chair, surrounded by your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren. And you're reflecting back on your life and the future that you've created for the next generation. If you could have a conversation with that man, what would you say to him based on how you're living your life right now?
That's a tough one. Actually, I'm all too close to 100 years old now, I think. I guess my approach to life has always been to try and make a difference. And obviously the in brackets bit before difference is positive difference. And I guess what I have always tried to do is to follow ideas. I'm an ideas person, and I'm interested in ideas and in new initiatives that will make a positive difference for people. In politics, I've never been one of those people who has played the man. I've never sought to be a political contestant, if you like. I've tried more to be somebody who's a bit more collaborative and tried to develop ideas through a collaboration and through working together with people. And what I would hope is that we see more of that in politics going forward. I guess in my 30 years in state parliament, I've become a little distressed that I think politics is is less fraternal than it was. I think that it's less bipartisan than it was. I think that in most cases it is a lot more aggressive and a lot more antagonistic in its approach between the various members. And I think that the community and citizens lose in that sort of circumstances. I think that from my point of view, and it's interesting having been a journalist as well as a member of parliament, I guess what I notice is that members of parliament, politicians, and I guess people in other fields too, including business, tend to be caught on this 24/7 news cycle and the need to respond to any issue instantly. They don't take enough time to think and to really consider the issue in depth. And what I find is, a journalist, for instance, at a news conference will ask a question and expects an answer. And I mean, if the politician gives that answer instantly without properly reflecting on what the question is or what the issue is, without having all the facts available, then there's a real chance that there's some bad decisions that stem from that bad policy even stems from that, and certainly negative outcomes in the community. I've always said to some of my colleagues that they ought to spend some time, particularly if they're ministers, they ought to spend some time just going away from politics for a day every fortnight or something and spending the time by themselves thinking about what they want to achieve, what the issues are that are confronting them, and using their own personal filter of their experience and knowledge. Because too often what happens is that they are on a treadmill that's created by bureaucracy and by all of the sort of pressures that come about in politics, and they don't get the time to think. And in the absence of them thinking, they don't necessarily question some of the information that comes to them from bureaucrats or even from the community, and to interrogate that information properly with a view to having better policies. So I guess what I'd be saying as a very old man going back to a slightly younger man, take more time to think through issues. Don't react immediately. Take time to mull over and to investigate and to properly understand an issue before you respond. I guess we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and it's a good idea to listen twice as much as we talk.
Fantastic. Bruce, thank you so much for this interview. It's been an absolute honor to meet you, to get into your head for a few minutes and find out the man behind the name. Thank you to everybody who's tuned into this podcast today. The Herstory Circle movement is attracting some phenomenal people who are coming online to share their story and their wisdom. Tune in again tomorrow when I come back with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Bruce, thank you again for this interview.
You're very welcome. Thank you. All the best to everyone.
Hey, Terry.
Hi. What we do? We lost
Hi.
Bruce.
Ruth had to go to sleep, but I'm aware that the video quality is not very good. Thank you for pointing that out, Charlotte. There is a problem on my side. So Terry is going to take over and play the next video from her location, and hopefully we'll get a better, crisper quality. We also have 2 speakers who are going to come in live. So for the rest of the day, we might have to rely on Terry controlling the videos and the live speakers who are going to come in. So let's just go around the room and give Bruce some feedback. Fascinating man, doing a lot of work in the community here in Melbourne, especially for immigrant community, the refugee community. The city of Melbourne is one of the most vibrant cities in Australia. So it was a real pleasure for me to speak to him and interview him. What was your take, Terry? We'll go around the room before we go on to our next speaker.
I'm getting some feedback, but
I'm also hearing that feedback. It's very hard to hear.
okay.
It sounds like something electrical is going.
Yeah, it stopped now.
I've just muted everyone,
Okay.
so I think it's gone now. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just amazed that as a politician in the United States, you don't find them involved in all of these extra things and trying to take a personal interest, not just passing laws on various things. He has a personal interest in a lot of things in the community. And I think that's what all politicians need to do. Most of them are only concerned about their little piece of the pie. And he's concerned about the entire community. Okay, so someone else can comment.
Gertrude, you're muted.
I was saying he's a pretty phenomenal man, and he's been in politics for over 40 years.
Yeah.
So it's really a very impressive record.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
What was your take, Jerry? And then we'll go on to Charlotte.
I love that he knew so much about the issues that you're facing there with the prejudice, because a lot of times the politicians in the United States don't even acknowledge what needs to be acknowledged. So a lot of things were impressive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Charlotte, I had muted you. Do you want to jump in here with a few comments before we move on to our next speaker? Oops.
There you go.
Okay.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought Bruce's information was very informative, and what I like that he brought in is he told us a little bit about the history, because if we don't know history, we're bound to repeat itself. So hopefully, as a politician, he has shared that story along the way, and obviously he has. But I appreciated that part of it, because I know it's an essential part of solving any problem is you got to know the history of it before you can go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Charlotte. Who do we have next, Terry? You have the bio for our next speaker?
Oh, I have the the video ready. I didn't do the bio. Wait.
All right, I'll give the bio to Jerry.
Okay.
I'll give the bio to Jerry, and Jerry, if you could introduce the next young woman. Do we have her bio?
Where are you sending it?
Actually, no, it's all right. I will have to introduce her without a bio. It hasn't uploaded yet to the drive. Her name is Oliver Mahoro. She's originally from Uganda and stationed in India at the moment, volunteering for an organization in India, which is focused around peace building. Very, very fascinating young woman. So I'll ask you to cue that up, Terry, and share your screen, and hopefully we'll get a better video quality from your end.
Uh-oh, it didn't work.
And while Terry's lining that up, Jerry, you can introduce my next book. I put a little write-up in the chat there. Can you see it? It starts with Hot Off the Heels.
I did see it.
Okay. Yeah. So that would be the next video that we share.
Okay.
You ready, Terry?
Oh, I'm getting there. I hope. Where did it go? Where did it go? There it is. Not seeing it yet. Okay, should be coming up. It's trying to get there.
I've added it to the screen.
Okay, you see it?
Just double click on the video, Terry, to open it.
I'm going to be talking about
You can't
the
hear.
summation of all the life experiences
Ah,
that you have had,
okay.
You don't have it?
So
comfortable
you haven't shared the right tab, Terry. So
experience.
stop the video
Okay.
and share screen again. Share screen.
Okay, you want me to stop?
Go onto the screen where the video is.
Oh, mercy. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
You've already stopped.
Okay, let me go back to StreamYard. Okay, let's start sharing here. Okay. Okay. Are you seeing anything off of my screen?
I'm seeing you've added something to the stream, but are you on the video? You need to share the tab that has the video where you've opened the video.
I'm on that tab. It's trying to start.
Okay. Okay. It's coming. It's coming.
Okay. 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 There we go. You got it?
Yep. Make it
Okay.
bigger.
I'm going to be talking about the summation of all the life experiences that we have had, comfortable or uncomfortable experiences, all define who we have become and who we are today. So congratulations, you have made it till now. I did not want to label these experiences as good or bad experiences because I don't believe in such a thing like bad experiences. Because sometimes when something happens that we don't like, we don't feel like comfortable with, we feel like it's not fair, we wish had not happened, we wish to live only comfortable life. But later when you look closer, you find out that it was good that it happened because we have learned lessons that will help us
Okay, we're hearing the echo.
to do greater things in the future. So everything happens for a reason. Everything happens and serves the purpose for everything happens the purpose for us to achieve our goals on this planet. So that's why I did not name this bad or good experiences, because there is no such a thing like bad experience. Taking example from my life experience, due to the history of my country, Rwanda, before 1959, it happened, a separation in my country. They labeled some groups, that one they were Hutus, others were Tutsis, then some things like tribes like that. Then my dad belonged in Tutsi tribe, which was just away from their country. Then they went to the neighboring country, Uganda. My dad went Uganda when he was only 8 years, in 1963. He was 8 years. He was denied to be in school because the children from Tutsi tribe were not allowed to attend the schools. So my dad also were being hunted to be killed at age of 8. So he had to go out of the country at 8 years old. He went to Uganda. He grew up there with part of his family that went in Uganda before him in 1959. So he grew up there. In 1980s, he came back when he was a little older. He was older when he came back in the 80s. He was at the age of getting married. Then he took my stepmom. In 1985, they went back to Uganda together. Then in 1989, my dad impregnated a different woman, another woman. That's how I was born. I was born from that different woman whom my dad has impregnated. I was born as illegitimate child, something that I did not like, something that was always a burden to me. I always felt ashamed of myself, being born as illegitimate, as a bastard. Sometimes I could hear some people call such children, the children who were born in that way, they could call them bastards, illegitimate. I did not like any of those names. So I always felt ashamed of myself. I don't like it that I was born in that way. I always felt angry towards my dad, that because that of his characters, he impregnated another woman. Now I'm living a life that I came to this planet in a way that I don't like. So I always felt angry with him. Even my mom, my biological mom, died when I was only 6. But growing up, I was also angry with her because he was a compare. He did the same thing like my dad did. So I was angry to both my dad and my mom, at the extent that I even didn't know who was my mom. Even when I figured out that the woman I live with is my stepmom, they kept it from me. Even right now, I have never had a conversation with my stepmom about me not having my biological mom, because my stepmom made sure that I will never think that she's not my stepmom. He really gave me love, and I learned a lot from her. She is a woman who has like very good quality, a woman who provided for us children when my dad was not home. When in 1991, my dad left our home and went to join the party that went in Rwanda to stop genocide when the genocide happened in Rwanda in 1994.
So my dad left home in 1991. When my dad left, my mom became a single mom, but still she treated me as her own child, even in the absence of my dad. So that is something quality that I loved about her. She never wanted me, even if either in the presence of my dad or in the absence of my dad. She always treated me like a mother. She never wanted me to know that I don't have a biological mom. So until now, we have never talked about that thing about me not having my biological mom. So I always resented my dad and my biological mom for cheating on my stepmom. That was one thing that I was accusing them. How can you cheat on this person who is like this? He is a kind of person, humble, respectful. How can you do this on this woman? So I was like feeling angry to my biological mom and my dad on behalf of my stepmom. So I have been always angry to my dad and my biological mom because they cheated on my stepmom and they made me come to this planet in a way that I did not like. I don't like to be called an illegitimate child. I don't like to be called bastard. I wish I was born in a right way. When I grew up, I started my primary, secondary, then I went at the college. One of my best friends got impregnated. She got depressed, ashamed of herself. She felt like she was no longer needed in the society. Then he went to be somewhere all alone. Later, I figured out where she was living. I went there. I asked if I can go and spend some time with her. Luckily, she agreed that I go spend some time with her. I went there in the morning. All I wanted to do, I wanted to help her come out of that loneliness, depression, or feeling that he has done something like a scandal, that she is not wanted in the society. So we spent like a whole day from morning to night talking about that child that she was carrying. I couldn't convince her. I wanted to convince her that it's okay that she got impregnated. It's okay that you were pregnant. You are not the first one. You are even not the last one. When I was not able to convince her, I told her about my story, how I was born, how I always felt that I'm not wanted. But now I have figured out that whatever happens, there is a reason why I have born. Now in my family, I'm the first one to go at the college. Now my family has hope in me, believes in me that I can change the dysfunction of my family. I can take my family to a new level, to a greater level in life. Now my dad has hope in me. My family has the hope in me. If I finish my college, I can get a nice job, then provide for my family, to take care of my family. Doesn't matter how I was born. Doesn't matter how I was born. Now, what I'm doing with, we were together in the ministry called the Voice of Hope Ministries, which was doing love activities like visiting patients at the hospitals, building shelters for the widows who were victim of genocide that happened in Rwanda in 1994. We did everything. So I told her that you can see that now I'm contributing to the community. You see, I'm contributing to those love activities that are happening. God knew that I would be needed in this time. Maybe that child also has a purpose, no matter how he will come on this planet, but he will have something great to do. God has a purpose for that child that you are carrying. It's not your decision that child will come to this planet, or is God's plan, even though that child will come through you. So on that day is when I have realized that it was not fair that I got angry to my dad. My dad has no like free idea about why I have come to this planet. Yes, I have come through him, but it was not his idea. It was not his plan. He doesn't know my plan on this planet, but God knows better, and that's why I had to come. So any slight difference, I wouldn't have come to this planet if my dad didn't meet that biological mom of mine and they get me. I wouldn't have come to this planet, and I'm happy to be here. That's why I'm not regretting. That's why I'm not even angry to my dad, to my biological mom anymore, because I'm happy that I'm here, that I can do something to create, to make our world a better place. That's why I think it was good that it happened. So it is a very good experience that I feel like I'm even appreciative that my dad played the role for me to be on this planet. When I finished the college, I couldn't get a job for 3 years. Then after 3 years is when I met this project that I'm working with, the Sustainability Project. Even now, I'm realizing that it was good that I did not get a job in 3 years so that I can work with this wonderful project that is working on creating a world that works for all by the year 2050. Through this project, I'm also connecting with other interesting people from around the world. So you can see that whatever happened in my life was working for my own good. Whatever downs and ups all served God's purpose, and I'm happy to where I am. I'm happy that no matter how I was born, no matter what I went through, now I can see that all were needed for me to be here and to do something to make our world a better place. Thank you so much.
That was an interesting presentation by a young woman trying to reconcile the circumstances of her birth, losing her mother at a young age, but being appreciative and going into the world and making the world a better place.
Society can be
So,
so cruel. You know, that word illegitimate. I mean, it's like you have a mother and a father. So if they're not married, I mean, it's okay, but you shouldn't. You're a kid. Why are you doing that to the children? I have some serious feelings about that. If they acknowledge
yes,
that you have a mother and you have a father, that's between the adults as far as I'm concerned.
society is not kind, unfortunately.
No, not at all.
Society is not kind.
Yeah.
Miss Jerry, what is your feedback?
Well, I thought it was a fabulous presentation. She did a wonderful job. And as she was speaking, I was listening and realizing how tough that would be. But what an amazing experience to have a stepmom that loved you as if you're your own. I have 11 stepchildren, and I love them as if they were my own. Even though they had really good moms that raised them, I can love them as if they were my own. And so I understand where the stepmom was, and feel like she was really blessed, and she recognized that she was blessed to have someone who loved her that much. My mom left her when I was 6, so I get her frustration with her birth mom not being in her life, and being upset with her dad. But I think had there been a conversation between the stepmom and her way earlier, she might have let go of the pain a lot earlier, because obviously the stepmom forgave the dad and took her in. And so the love was more strong than the anger or the disappointment at what he did. And so I love what she's doing, how she helped her friend, that helped open her eyes to what her mom might have been going through, or what, you just don't know. But I thought it was fabulous.
Yeah, that's so true. Now we have our next speaker coming, and Jerry, you will remember Janice Cummings.
Oh yeah.
She came to Las Vegas. So she's due to join us in about 4 minutes' time. We'll wait for her. And then after Janice, we'll cue the video that is sharing the story of the book that I am co-authoring. Terry is also in that book.
Nice.
We were invited to co-author a book by Dr. Tererai Trent, an amazing woman from Zimbabwe who has been building schools in Zimbabwe with the help of Oprah. And now she's creating an education fund to bring young girls to the United States to go to university. So we launched the book this week. My chapter is entitled Ubuntu 2.0, where I am sharing again the Ubuntu philosophy, in the sense that the philosophy is an operating system for humanity. So I kind of use that angle to bring Ubuntu to the mainstream. Terry, what did you share with yours?
I shared with mine from my book, which is not published yet. My book is entitled I Am Your Sister, but the little snippet that I chose for my story is becoming a sister friend. And I discovered that when I was writing I Am Your Sister. I discovered a lot of things. I reflected. It revealed so many things of not only about them, but about myself. And I had to reconcile. I had to reconcile and apologize even to myself about my thoughts and my actions. So it was really, really cleansing for me.
That is awesome. So Janice did send me an email a minute ago. There she is. And Jerry, seeing as you know Janice well, let's
Hi,
get you to
Janice.
introduce
Hi,
her.
ladies.
Hey, Janice.
I think I've seen
Hey, how
Janice
are you?
before.
I am fantastic. How are you, ladies?
Great. Did I see Janice at the
We
last
are
summit?
good.
Yes. I
Yes.
think
She did
so,
come to the last
yes.
summit, yes.
And I
Yes.
remember both of you ladies. I
Okay.
think I remember her too. Yeah.
Great.
Gerlene, how do you pronounce your name?
Geraldine.
Geraldine. Yeah, I
Or
remember
Jerry.
Geraldine.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, ladies.
Nice to see you
Nice
too.
to see you.
Wonderful to have you back, Janice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Terry is going to introduce you, and we want a
am I?
catch up on where you're at, what you've been up to since we last met.
Okay.
And then we will share the upcoming goodies for the Herstory movement with you.
Okay.
So you know
fantastic.
what we are working towards, bringing all of our members to New Zealand and Australia in December.
Wow.
So Jerry,
Okay.
I'll ask you to read Janice's bio there. And then Janice will give you 10 to 15 minutes to share your story with us so we know what's been happening since we last met.
Okay.
Go
Sounds
ahead,
good.
Jerry.
You want me to? Do I have her bio?
I see it up here. Isn't
It's
that
in the
it?
chat. In the chat.
Okay, let me look for it.
Yeah, I see it in the private chat.
Okay.
And I can read it because it's right here.
Oh, is it right after her name? Right after your name?
Actually, I see it on Gertrude's side. Herstory Global.
Yes, right after her name. That's the
Okay,
bio.
I have it
I
now.
grabbed that from LinkedIn.
Okay. Janice Cummings says, I am a down-to-earth encourager and leader who loves to equip women to choose a life that is free from pain, control, and fear. I have been told by my clients that I instill belief in them to move forward, and my mission is to lead clients from brokenness to wholeness. We're really grateful to have you with us today, Janice. Thank you for joining us, and we'll let you have the microphone.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad to be here. And I guess I just tell you a little bit about what I'm doing. I'm the founder and CEO of You Win Working With Me, LLC. And what I've been doing is I've designed a relationship transition program for women who are in transition from unhealthy toxic relationships. They're divorced or they widowed. And I take them through a process of so they can change, they can change, they can grow, and empowers them to make a new start in their lives. Because I found that women, even though they leave, they don't stay gone. And they're in a very vulnerable time in their lives. And they need that support in order to help them remain out of that abusive or toxic relationship. That's the goal of You Win working with me, and as well to equip women with the skills around the manipulation and the signs that this person is abusive before they get into the relationship. So that's our real goal, is to stop them from getting into the relationship in the first place. And then the second part of that is for our company to guide them through the process of recovering from that abuse. Emotional abuse is my specialty. And the idea, I guess the idea, God gave me the idea because when I went through it as a child, I didn't want any part of it. And then I forgot all about it until I became a program coordinator at the Battered Women's Shelter. And part of the process is me discovering that that's what was going on with me. And making bad choices in relationships, not loving myself, not seeing my self-worth. And the blessing was that I got sick. And when I got sick, I had to go to psychotherapy. And then I started recovering and understanding how damaging emotional abuse is. And it starts at childhood, and it can continue for the rest of your life if you don't address it. So that's what I've been doing. I've perfected this program for these women. And I'm also doing more speaking engagements because I'll be doing a speaking on the 15th for the WIN conference that's going to be in New York. So I'm expanding my speaking abilities and talents and storytelling and all that good stuff. And I'm also getting clear on my message, on what I want to bring to the world, what God has given me to give to the world as my gift. So that's kind of basically where I'm at. I'm still feeling my way, but it's getting a lot clearer than it has been in the past. So that's where I'm at, ladies.
Absolutely wonderful. It's so good to have you back. There's so much that has happened since we last talked.
Okay.
For a start, we've now attracted an angel investor based in Sweden who has come on board, helping us with strategies, ideas, attracting other investors to invest in all of our projects,
Wonderful.
and to help our social impact movement go forwards. One of the things we've decided to do to amplify the voices of all of our speakers is to create a reality TV show. So
Okay.
imagine a show like The Voice, American Idol, but for speakers.
Wow.
And we are competing to articulate our stories, share our visions and our missions on the one side. We will be judged by our peers. So somebody will come home with a grand prize.
Oh,
But
wow.
on the other side, everybody is a winner. We want to raise funds for all of our social impact projects. So instead of people just voting for the speakers, we will crowdfund for the speakers. So we are pitching the reality TV show to Oprah's network. We're pitching it to Netflix as the second option.
Wow.
And if we don't get picked up by those two networks, we will produce it ourselves. So the women in our tribe become the producers of this new reality TV show. So we've got some exciting things happening. We want to film 10 episodes in Australia from the 1st to the 10th of December, and 10 episodes, for 10 days in New Zealand from the 11th to the 20th.
Wow.
And if all goes well, we might throw in, and I haven't told Terry and Jerry this one, we might throw in a little stopover in Bali, Indonesia. There's a beautiful retreat center where I normally take my authors to write their books.
Wow.
So we might add that as a stopover at the end where we can just go and relax by the beach. It's in a village called Ubud, which is one of the most spiritual places in Bali. But I'm trying to weave that in as well. Accommodation. Terry, you were asking me, where are we going to stay? Do I have to book a hotel? I am trying to secure glamping site. So we will be tenting under the stars in beautiful luxury tents. It's called glamping. I've actually located a spot by the beach. I'm just not sure if I can get enough tents for the 100 women, but that's going to be the idea. I really want all of you to come and experience something you have never experienced before. So, Janice, we want you to come. Terry is coming. Jerry is coming. I'm trying to connect the original tribe, the first woman who stepped up in Vegas to come and be part of the movement.
Yeah, that was great.
And some exciting things are happening in 2022, leading on to 2021. The other thing that has happened since we last met is I won a competition called the New Zealand Australia Women in Technology Awards.
Wow.
I have been designing an app to connect our community and to connect women in third world countries who don't have access to the internet.
Wow.
So imagine an app like WhatsApp that can be downloaded onto a cell phone.
Wow,
and let's say there's a woman in a village in Zimbabwe who's designed a necklace like this.
Okay. Oh, that's beautiful.
And she takes a picture with her phone and transmits it through this app like WhatsApp.
Okay.
And we expose her jewelry to buyers in the US, Australia, New Zealand. We are creating databases of designers who are getting ready, for example, for New York Fashion Week. And that piece of jewelry could end up on a runway in New York. And the woman in that village in Africa gets paid what it's worth. And the money is transmitted back onto her phone. So that's one side of the app. It's a fintech app, creating a bridge between women in third world countries who don't have the internet to get access to the global marketplace. The other side of the app is my coaching program. So I have digitized Speaking from the Heart and How to Land Your First TED Talk video course. And it will be dispensed through the app. So when you download the app, you're going to be paired up with an accountability partner, someone you can work with while you're practicing your speech and getting ready to come in December. You will get the videos every week that you watch together. There'll be blog articles, other videos of inspiration. But each time you complete a task, you're accumulating points. So I've gamified the app. And with gamification, you reward people who are doing all the right things and you're accumulating points. The points can be redeemed as cash. So I'm still trying to figure out that piece. Or the points can also be accumulated when you introduce other women to join our tribe. So when you nominate friends and they register to come onto the app, you're going to be generating some points as well and getting rewards for doing that to help us grow and scale globally. So there's a lot of exciting things happening. And when the reality TV show eventually comes out, again, the videos can be watched on an app and downloaded by people from all over the world. The thing about a reality TV show is that we create influencers. And I've been doing a lot of case studies, watching reality TV shows, seeing how people end up with millions of followers if something is competitive and is real time. We will come and send a video team to all of your locations to film your backstories as well. So we find out the women who are stepping forward to share their stories. And let's use the influence for good and create a massive difference in terms of social impact globally. That's what this whole program is taking us to, the vision that we have for the future. Our very first investor was Jerry. So Jerry, I have to thank you. I will keep thanking you for what you've done to keep the movement going with your contributions. And we are just excited to really take our game to a completely different level, create a revolutionary experience for people as well. So it looks like Janice has dropped off. She was struggling with her internet. She might come back on. We'll see. In the meantime, Terry, do you want to cue the video for the book? Oh, there she is. No, she's back. Let's just see if she has any other questions in case she has to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So well, Janice, you dropped off there for a second. Do you have any questions, Janice? Because I know that there are other women who are listening, who are thinking, how can I get involved? Go onto our website, register to speak, the herstorycircle.com. Between now and the end of the year, we have 3 more events like this online, so you can participate from anywhere in the world. Tell your friends, tell your sisters, your mothers, your grandmothers to come on board and join this amazing movement.
Okay.
So any questions, Janice?
No, I don't have any questions. It sounds very exciting and very innovative, unique and innovative. So it's exciting.
It will be different. It will be different. So I will email you more information, Janice. Okay. We recorded the last meeting we had with the first 10 women. So you can watch that recording. And if you have any questions that come up, fire them at me. And we really want to make sure we bring all of the women who've participated so far to come. We want 100 women for the New Zealand trip, 100 women for Australia, and then as many who want to come to the retreat. That's going to be an added bonus. So we can just relax and celebrate what we are creating as a collective.
Now, Gertrude, where would I see those recordings at? Are you going to send them to me, or you have a space?
I'm going to send you an email right now.
Okay. Okay. No
I will
problem.
send you an email right now. Yeah.
Okay. Mhm. Great.
Fantastic. It's lovely to see you again.
Fantastic to see you ladies too. All right. Ashe.
And if
See y'all
you are
later.
still in touch with any of the other ladies who came to
Yeah,
Las
I
Vegas,
am.
Janice, please spread the
Uh-huh.
word.
I will. Patience, all of them. I'm still in contact with every last one of them. So, yeah, I'll let them know. Okay.
Fantastic.
All right, ladies.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks for
My
joining us
pleasure.
today.
All right, my pleasure. And take care, ladies.
Thank you. So, Terry, what we'll do is this will be our last video, because for tomorrow I will upload these videos to YouTube. So we are playing them from YouTube, from your locations, in case I have the same problems with my connection.
Okay.
So if you want to queue up the last one, Jerry, you might want to read the little write-up about this video.
Yeah, I found the other half to it.
Okay, good.
Oh wait, maybe there's two parts to it. Okay, so it starts with the Sacred Promise is a collection of stories.
Oh,
yes.
Is that right? Okay. The Sacred Promise is a
Right.
collection of stories led by humanitarian, best-selling authors, and Oprah Winfrey, all-time favorite guest, Dr. Terraria Trent, writing by 36 phenomenal women. Sacred Promise inspires us all women globally to honor who we are and reclaim our voices. The foreword is written by New York best-selling author Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gilbert. Sacred Promise has a profound message. If you are true to your inner voice that guides us, we will find meaning, beauty, clarity, and direction, even in the darkest of times as we navigate our way to our true purpose. This collection shares with us voices deeply embedded in diversity and unique perspectives, with each author sharing their own story and the sacred promise they have made to themselves, each so different, yet brought together by the collective sisterhood and universal longing for hope and positive change for the world. This book courageously explores the deeper meaning of existence, the journey we travel, and the challenges we overcome, and invites us to consider the true purpose of our lives and how we can take action on our own sacred promise to ourselves. So I'm really looking forward to reading this book. It said on here, or you said earlier, that it's a best-selling book. Okay, there's the part I missed it. I'm sorry. Let me start from that. Hot off the heels of Amazon, #1 Amazon Women in Business book, Courage and Confidence, comes Sacred Promise, both by Women Changing the World Press and KMD Books. Amazing to be part of this powerful collection of women sharing our sacred promises with you and women across the globe. My chapter is titled Ubuntu 2.0, Humanity Operating System, and I share how the Ubuntu philosophy can be installed to help solve the world's problems and reconnect us as a race. Still pinching myself that I'm so excited for being part. All proceeds will go to scholarships for women through the Trent Terrera, thank you, Trent International Foundation. Okay.
go one day, and she had this woman.
Her first dream that she wrote down on that piece of paper when she was a little girl was to live in the United States. In 1998, Tara moved to Oklahoma with her husband and 5 children. Dream number 2 that she wrote down. Just 3 years later, Tara, after moving to the United States, earned her bachelor's degree in agricultural education. Dream number 3, earning her master's degree in just 2 years. And today, before the end of this year, Tara will have made dream number 4 that she wrote down also come true. She will be awarded her PhD. Unbelievable. Please welcome the soon-to-be Dr. Tara Trent.
What an honor to meet you.
What is your dream now?
I feel I need to give back. I need to build a school in my village so that the same girls that I see today, they don't have to go through what I did go through.
When Tara was here in 2009, we got a glimpse at the horrible conditions of the school. The buildings are literally falling apart, and most of the classrooms don't have desks. So the students do all their reading and writing on the floor, and the teachers have no supplies. And as a result, there's a dismal 14% pass rate. Your story is, at the core of everything I believe in the possibility of a human life here on earth. And for that reason, I am going to help you rebuild your school. I'm donating $1.5 million. Yes. I'm donating $1.5 million to... Yes. Yes. We are going to build a school.
It is achievable.
And it is achievable. So it's now been 4 years since I committed to helping Tara achieve her dream. Her school is up and running, and she splits her time between Zimbabwe and Salinas, California.
With Oprah's donation, the school was completed in 2014. Oh my goodness, we have 1,200 kids attending school. We now have the early childhood development at our school. Today, you find parents, you find community. They are cleaning the windows. They are making sure that the kids have a safe environment. We have a reading mentor that comes to the shelter, and we even have some of the community members saying, maybe I can also read. And today we have 18 kids that completed their high school and they are ready for university.
Her mother told her she had potential, that the situation they were in wasn't the rest of her life. Her mother told her to write down her dream and bury it. So she wrote that she wanted to go to university, she wanted to go to school, and she put it in a small can and buried it in her village. She ended up in the United States. She now has a statue in New York dedicated to her because she is an activist who talks about education, breaking poverty in Africa. And so I started just watching while she was doing it, what she was doing online. I then connected with her on LinkedIn. And last year when I was here, I got a donation for my foundation anonymously from the US. Somebody donated $5,000. And Dr. Trent had just posted on LinkedIn that she was trying to raise $100,000 to bring a group of girls to the US to go to university. So I thought this money just came, I wasn't expecting it. Let me pass it on. And I donated $1,000 towards her cause. She then sent me a personal email saying, Gertrude, we need to talk. We came on a Zoom call and I told her that I've been following you for years. You are an inspiration for me. What you are doing, I'm doing in my community and in my village. Then she invited me to co-author a book. Elizabeth Gilbert has written the foreword for this book, and the funds that are coming out of this book are going towards educating girls. She's creating a fund. So that's what the book looks like. It's called The Sacred Promise. And I had to write a chapter of my sacred promise. And what I vowed to do when I left Africa is to go back, and help in education, because I believe that education is the key that breaks the cycle of poverty. And we can take Africa on a quantum leap into the 22nd century if we educate the children. Africa has got the youngest population in the world. 60% of Africans are under the age of 30. So imagine the potential that's there. So Dr. Tererai Trent, I am here today launching the Sacred Promise in Melbourne, Australia. Thank you for picking me. Thank you for seeing my potential and giving me the privilege to do this with you. So the last slide has got a QR code. You can go onto my website and order a copy. So if you've got a phone, just take a picture. And remember, when you are buying this book, buy one for yourself. Buy one for someone you love. Buy one for someone who needs inspiring. My mission is to raise $1 million, so I have to sell 30,000 copies of this book. Please spread the word, share this QR code with friends. It's going to be a great Christmas gift as well for your Christmas stockings.
Okay. We're back. So, Terry, we have some work ahead of us to get this book out there in a big way. I am really excited at the possibility of generating a trust fund of $1 million through the sales of this book to bring young girls from Zimbabwe to get higher education in the US.
Okay, I'm working on it. As soon as we get books in hand, I'll be able to distribute and sell and sell and sell.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Now, tell us a little bit about the sorority that you belong to, because you and Dr. Trent know each other from the past too, right?
Yes, yes. I first heard Dr. Trent, my soror, as we say, my sister, and I heard her speak in 2012 at a retreat, a sisterhood conference in Puerto Rico. And so I fell in love with her story and everything. And I was like, wow. So I had been following her since then. Every time I would see it on TV, because I'm right here in Chicago, well, close to Chicago, Illinois. And sometimes she would be over there speaking, and she came out with her book, Awakened Woman. And so I had originally published, I picked up her, the little girl that buried her dream in a can. And when we were in Houston, we always have an author's row, and her name was there, but she wasn't there. So I contacted her and I said, how am I going to get my book autographed if you're not at the conferences? And so I sent short stories. She went and said, okay, just send it to me. I don't know when you're going to get it back. Well, I sent it postage paid envelope inside so I could get it right back. And she sent it right back. And then I've been following her ever since. I went to her book signing in Illinois for The Awakened Woman. And we've just been friends, and I've introduced her to a lot of our sorority sisters. And I belong to Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I am a 25-year member. And she joined us as an honorary sister in 2013 at our centennial celebration in Washington, D.C. And so I had talked to her about my book, my personal book, and we did a Zoom, and she was offering suggestions and everything. And then next thing you know, I get an invitation to join Sacred Promise. So you never know what's in store for you. And then I met Gertrude. So it's just been wonderful, because I'm over that age at crossroads. I've retired for the third time, and it's like I'm not ready to sit down and do nothing. Okay. So then, and Gertrude, my sister, picked up on that, and here I am. And I also have a podcast coming up
Fantastic.
myself, those that are 50 and over that are at a crossroad in their lives, and just want something to do, want to do something, and to help the community. Yeah. So that's my story in a
Fantastic.
nutshell. Yeah. Love it.
Well, thank you so much, ladies, for coming online and helping co-host today's event. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 9 a.m. in New Zealand. It was 7 a.m. here in Melbourne. What time was it there for you, Terry?
In Chicago, 2 p.m.
2 p.m. in Chicago. And Jerry, what time was it in
Yeah.
Utah?
It would have been 4 time. 4.
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
Yeah, 2 hours.
4 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 2 hours before.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So same time, same place. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to all of our speakers this morning. Our apologies for the technical glitches we had. Hopefully tomorrow it will be smoother. We'll upload the videos to YouTube. It'll be easier to play from there. If we have any technical issues, we have a better quality that way. All right, ladies, I will see you
Okay.
same time tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay. You're welcome. Bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.